On this week's Xamarin.Essential API of the Week, we're going to take a look at geocoding, enabling you to geocode or reverse geocode to and from address and location. So tune in. Welcome back to another Xamarin.Essential API of the Week. Today, we're taking a look at geocoding, which is an awesome API enabling us to geocode or reverse geocode. That means we're either going to take an address, or what we call a placemark, and geocode it to a latitude and longitude, or take a latitude and longitude location and reverse geocode it into an address or placemark. So let's see how we can integrate this into our app. As always, we're going to get started on documentation. When we go to the Xamarin.Essentials API documentation, you want to be sure you follow the Getting Started guide and browse through all of the feature guides to get details on how to implement them. Here inside of geocoding, now there's not too much setup that you need to do to get it started. Here there's not much for iOS or Android, but if you are doing a UWP application, you're going to need a Bing Map API to get this started. Then after that, it's as easy as bring in the Xamarin.Essentials namespace and start calling the getLocation async to do a geocode, or the opposite of reverse geocoding here, to get the place marks. So what's really nice about this is it's a very simple asynchronous API and also has extension methods built in to get distances between multiple locations when you're doing your geocoding. So let's head over to our sample code to see how to do this. The first thing here, that this is my app essentials that I've been using time and time again for Essential API of the Week videos. I've of course installed Xamarin.Essential into all three of my projects. So you'll need that for iOS, Android, and your .NET Standard library, and UWP if you have it. Over in my main activity, I've added the specific information for permissions on Android, and I've also set the initialization code for Xamarin.Essentials. That comes from the Getting Started guide. Now over in my geocoding page, I've set this up already ahead of time, but the first thing that we're going to do is see how we can take a numeric latitude and longitude and then geocode it to an address. So I have a button that just says detect place marks. So here, for instance, I'm inside of this building or whatever latitude or longitude I want to pass in. It should give me back the address or multiple addresses that may be relevant for those latitude and longitude locations. Then down here, I have a simple entry where I can enter an address. So maybe I'll put in Microsoft Building 25 or Building 18, and then it will give me the latitude and longitude for it. So in the code behind it couldn't be any easier. I've brought in Xamarin.Essentials to use any of the Xamarin.Essentials APIs, and I've added some boilerplate code here. The first thing is get address command and get position. I've also gone ahead and give it some defaults just so we don't have to type that out manually. So latitude and longitude of Microsoft Building 25, which I'm here in the Channel 9 studios, and the address as well, so we can go ahead and do the geocoding. So I have some default MVVMs sort of kind of going back and forth, so when I set it in the UI, it'll update in the code behind. And what we'll want to do is update the geocode address or geocode position. So the first thing is let's get the position for the address. So here we're going to geocode it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, and like always, I could start typing Xamarin.Essentials. And this API lives inside of the geocoding namespace. So here is all the different APIs, and here's geocoding. We'll notice that there's getLocations async and getPlacemarks async. Notice that it's not just a single location, it is multiple. So they are returned based on the highest probability, but you may get multiple inside of there. So let's go ahead and use this. We want to get the location here. So I'm going to say .getLocations async, and I need to pass it an address. That's all I need to do. If we remember inside of our user interface back over here, we can note that I have the address for the position that will be, and up top for the latitude and longitude, it's the latitude and the longitude. So over here, let's do the bottom one first, and we're going to need to await on this. See, it's an async task. So I'll say var locations equals await geocoding.getLocations async. Now this should return back multiple locations, so let's use link to grab the first one. So I'll say locations.first or default. Now it may throw an exception, or it may just return null to me. So here, if it is null, there is none here, it will go ahead and say unable to detect locations. Else, we'll go ahead and use some string formatting to output the latitude and longitude. Now let's do the reverse. Let's go ahead over here and get the addresses. So now, instead of getting locations, we can say var placemarks, and I'll say await geocoding dot, and I'll say get placemarks. This is going to take in a new location or a double for latitude and longitude. We can see right above, I've gone ahead and I did a try parse here on the string that was entered by the user to a double. So here we'll say lat and long. There we go. And we'll do the same thing here, placemarks dot first or default. Now first or default is part of link, and that is going to return the first in the Ienumerable or list of placemarks. Else default, and the default would be a null value for this, for instance. Now the same thing true here. What I'm going to do is output unable to detect placemarks, or simply use string formatting to output all of the different attributes of that address here. So here we have the admin area, the country code, the locality, the postal code inside of it. And that's it. It's just a single line of code to get the placemarks or location. So now all we have to do is rerun our application, tap on a few buttons, and we should be good to go. So let's go ahead and bring up our application. And here we are in debug mode, so let's go ahead and add a few breakpoints inside of our source code here, just so we can see what is returned from the APIs. So here we'll go ahead and do this. Now I'm going to go ahead and go into our geocoding section. And here I can first go ahead and say, let me get my place mark. So here's the latitude and longitude, and it's going to return to me a list of addresses back. So here it's actually returned 9 or 10 different probable place marks for me. So here we can go in and say Ienumerable, and we can see the different place mark settings that it's returning to me. And here's the first one with its best location. We can go ahead and continue on. And we can see that this is returning Washington in the US, United States, in Redmond, and this is giving me an address of 79th Street for that specific location. Now when I detect locations, it's going to do the opposite here. So here we have locations, it's going to return approximate. In this instance, it's returned just a single value to me with the latitude and longitude for this building. So now when we open it back up, there's my latitude and longitude in place. I have the address, I have the latitude and longitude, and I've geocoded and reverse geocoded those latitude and longitude and the address. That's it. It's just that simple to start geocoding inside of your application using Xamarin.Essentials. I'll put links to all the documentation and to this application in the show notes below. So make sure you check out those and the other Xamarin.Essential API of the Week videos. Thanks for watching. Hey, it's James. I'm just checking in and wanted to thank you for watching this awesome Xamarin.Essential API of the Week. Now don't forget to do all the things, such as like, subscribe, and ding that notification bell for even more videos. And while you're here, check out more Xamarin.Essential API videos of the week. They're all right here. Go do it right now. It's awesome.